So as much as I want to get the Scrambler finished so I can take it on its little adventure, it's had the limelight for long enough, and it's about time that I get some work done on the CB750. I put a post on Instagram and Facebook to say this guy's back on the operating table to get some work done. There's a few things that I really need to spend some time on, one of which is the rear brake, and I'll show you what I've got to do. This here is the original slave cylinder off the bike. I've left it in its original position. That's the lever, and that's where that was originally, off this spline here. Now this spline goes back and obviously pushes this lever up, just like this, if you can see that. And what I'm going to do is, this is the rear sets that I've had made, and the actual position has completely changed, obviously from here all the way back to here. Now I need to make that connect up to somewhere here so that it pushes that piston up inside that cylinder. The problem with me doing that is trying to connect it all up and try and make it work. So from the top angle, it's all a bit of a balancing act at the moment because nothing's tightened up, but you can see that's working. There goes that nut that's just sitting on it. This has to be spaced out in order to be able to get that all connected, which I'll show you in a minute. But you can see by me pressing on this is obviously pushing that rod up and pushing it into the cylinder, so that's definitely going to work that position. The reason I've had to space this out so far is because this spline here is obviously designed for the thickness of that, which I now have to fix. So in order for this to fit nice and flush, I'll have to chop this off. But if I was to do that and not do anything more, this thing will just flop around inside here, which obviously won't be secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it off just with a little bit, because I've got a little bit of room behind there, probably about 3 or 4 mil, probably enough to put a washer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it where I need it cut, and then I'm going to drill a hole, and then I'm going to tap it. And I'm probably going to put a countersunk bolt just straight through into there, just to hold that washer on. Not this washer, but something else that's going to be suitable, just to stop that from falling in. So that's going to secure this from moving this way. And then obviously I'll put some Loctite on it to secure it so it's never going to rattle loose, and that'll be good to go. So 2 of these, a little bit of threaded rod in the middle, which will give me the adjustment that I need to actually make this whatever position I'm comfortable with having it. So this was the linkage that I was originally going to use to go from here to here, but due to this being so long, it's too weak and I want to beef it up a little bit. So I have another idea of what I want to do. I still need to use one of these for obviously being able to adjust it, but I want to try something with a bit of round bar. So to work out exactly where I want that to be, I just used a little bit of this TIG welding wire, and that gave me the measurement of where I want it to be. Obviously I need to trim the ends, but I can make those bends and then pretty much trim the ends and then put some thread on it, and then obviously one of these guys will be on this end, and then this end will just have a bit of thread and it can go through this hole and then put a nut on it. So let's give it a go, see what I can come up with, see if I can make this work. It's just something a little bit different. So that rod that I just made is all connected now, and it does work. Like, you press down on it and it obviously does its job. I'm not totally sold on the whole idea. It was just something to try, just to see if I can get something like that to work, because around here it obviously clears the chunk of this actual rear set, and it does obviously do the job. So this idea here is actually making a plate, or a bracket, sorry, that changes the angle of this actual slave cylinder so that it runs in line with this mechanism as it moves, which works really well. However, you know, I'm just not 100% sure if I want that. So I've put the master cylinder back in its original position. I keep calling it a slave cylinder for some unknown reason. So yeah, it's back in its original position. I do like the way that it stays in line with the frame. If I can keep that in that position, I will. So I'm not sold on either of those two setups. I still have to think about this a little bit longer. It hasn't been a real simple procedure. I thought it was going to be nice and easy. Just get a linkage and just throw it from there to there, and you know, obviously connect it up and it will work. But you know, given the fact that when you push down on this, if you push down too far, this here goes past that center point and it actually goes back. So you'll actually, you know, you'll have full brakes and all of a sudden nothing. So I've got to be real careful with that. So I have to make sure that wherever it is, it can't go past that center point. This here can't go further than that, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean. So if it goes past that position there and it goes past, it's obviously going to take the brake off. Something to think about, but I might work on something else and just put this on the back burner for now. So I've had a bit of time to think about what I'm going to do here, and what I ended up doing was going down to the bolt shop and I grabbed myself a high tensile bolt, 6mm bolt that goes all the way through here. I've temporarily put a couple of bearings just in the place of where I'm going to put a spacer. There's two 6mm bearings, like the actual shaft that goes through the center is 6mm. This bolt that's in here is actually a high tensile 6mm bolt, and so once I've pretty much put the spacer in here and done this up, it's really going to lock it up hard, so it's not going to have any problems with being weak. But I ended up making this little tab here. The first one that I made was just a little bit too long, so I trimmed it down. So I really am a lot happy with how that's turned out. This here has just got a little tack on the side. I'm going to take this whole piece out and probably either TIG it up or MIG this entire piece on both sides just to make it super strong. So this works a lot better. As you can see, when I push this down in the position it would normally go while I'm sitting on it, it's pushing that shaft enough. There's absolutely no fluid in the actual master cylinder, so it's going to be bottoming out if I push it all the way. But once that has fluid in it, it'll only ever need to move, I'm guessing, about that far max. So that's something that I'll do when I eventually bleed it up and just do some tests. I may have to do some adjustments. So I'm super happy with how that's turned out, because now I can keep the master cylinder in line with the actual frame. This is pretty much hidden. From looking down on it, you won't even see it. So yeah, super stoked. So after I gave her a bit of a clean up, that's what I'm left with. So I always said that I'm going to show my success as well as my failures, and here's a failure. I cut it out exactly the size that I wanted, and I wanted to get it nice and close, but unfortunately it's too close and the lid won't be able to come off if I was to weld that on there. So I'm going to cut another one and make it probably about 10mm longer here, This here has a flat section, as you can probably see, and that sits up hard against this plastic so that this will never, you know, spin and then obviously end up like that. So just keep that in mind if you do something like this, just to keep in mind that it's, you know, try and make it so that it's going to be secure in there, just like it would from the factory. So yeah, I'll make another one. I'll use this as my template and then just make it about 10 mil longer here, and probably longer than I need, and then put it in there and just trim it down ever so slightly so I don't do that again.